Okay, everyone, thank you all for being here. So, as the planet is going through all this transit and this change and this accelerated changes, where anything in all aspects of our lives, whether it's climate change, whether it's politically, whether it is emotionally, energetically, uh, 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 in terms of our own personal identity, everything is changing so rapidly because our karma and the karma of the world is getting accelerated. And giving to the fact that this week, a few days back, one of my students had a son that was in Thailand that was around the time, at the same time, when the 7.7 earthquake occurred in Myanmar and Thailand, causing all these kind of catastrophic changes to occur. And I'm and I'm again reminded, and it's not just there. There was 6.6 other places. There are all kinds of, the earth is shaking everywhere, particularly in the Ring of Fire over, uh, um, Melton was telling us in Canada, in Vancouver, a few weeks ago, there was an earthquake there. It's still part of the Ring of Fire that runs all the way across from Canada to South America and wraps around into New Zealand and goes back to the Myanmar and Asia and India and wraps all the way back into Alaska. So we are witnessing quite a bit of turbulence as the planet begins to shift. And there is no such thing. I have clients who are trying to figure out where they can run to because they are feeling besieged wherever they are geographically and they feel like they should go to a different location. You can outrun this. Wherever you go, something is going to happen. There are no such thing as safe places. There are only safe people. And we need to be very aware of this. And if you find yourself in a place where you're more or less settled, find a way to cope with what it is that's being presented to you at the moment. Okay? At least that's the way I see it. Unless spirit tells me otherwise, Pierre, get out from where you are right now, I will then leave. But generally speaking, whatever is happening, I'm going to find the best way possible to manage what the universe is presenting me and remain put for the moment, because I know if I'm aligned to God, if I'm praying and I'm asking for guidance and for protection, I will be safe. All kind of chaos may happen around me, but I will be safe. I know that. And to that effect, I had just sent you all an email with 9 curated prayers that I have channeled over the past 17 years to help support this endeavor, to not only ask for safety for us, but to also ask Spirit to help us not empath the suffering of others. We talked about this last week, and it's extremely important. Not only is my personal and your all personal karma being accelerated, but a lot of time, it's not just our personal karma, it's the karma of the group body and the collective, and family members and friends and people that we care for. And because we're so connected and tapped into them, and we're busy trying to feel them and know them and try to save them and protect them, that we absorb their karma. I had a client not too long ago who I was suffering from all these kind of ills and all these health problems. And when I focused on trying to do the healing for her, it was very clear, so clear, it wasn't her karma. She was taking the karma of her entire family. Everybody in her family that was sick, that was ill, she was the strong one. She would get, and it's very typical of this idea, this Christian idea of being a martyr. and taking, nailing yourself to the cross for the rest of your collective and for your group. And that's the way you redeem yourself, and that's the way you become holy, you become pure. There is nobility and higher consciousness in suffering. There is no such thing in the universe. All you need to do is to make the right repair and correction for the karma, and then that's it. That's all that needs to happen. Whatever that is. And a lot of time is just asking God and other individuals, whether they still embodied or disembodied, for forgiveness, a sincere forgiveness. And in the event that it's something that's very old, call the karmic board. Call the divine director, Mother Mary, Kuan Yin, Pallas Athena, okay, Lady Nada, Lady Portia, Lady Justice, and Elohim Cyclopia, and ask them to come in and assist you when it feels that it's so big that you cannot do it on your own. So I'm finding the idea of connection to the group body. In this instance, this woman was taking the burden of her family, and she's not supposed to be sick. That was the craziest part, is that this is what Spirit was telling me. This is whatever she's feeling, it's not hers, because she's so enmeshed and codependent with the rest of her group body, her family group body, that she's taking their burden and she's taking the hit for them. Now, I have to say to you, when you're a mother, this is much more complicated. And it's not easy for a mother to have the kind of detachment, not to want to run in front of their children when they are having some sort of difficulty. Okay? So that's also a problem for her, because she was interceding in that sense. Like the mother hen that's calling her chicks to go underneath her when an eagle or bird of prey shows up. And we have to be very careful with that, because the non-attachment is the key to enlightenment, and it's the key to ascension. So when we are, and as I said before, sometimes we don't know, because the perimeter of fear is kind of like a dark cloud in the edges. We're doing our torsion field, we're doing everything correctly, but you can feel that there's a sense of nausea or malaise or some sort of unease that's coming in, and before you know it, our perimeter is breached and it's inside of us, but it's not ours. It's a question of figuring out how to separate what is ours and what is not ours, and realize I don't need to empath all of these things. And moreover, I don't need to be responsible to change and alter other people's course, because God is capable of reaching them and resolving the karma. The same way God is able to reach me and elevate me and give me the wisdom so that I have the insight. We still need to empath. We still need to feel. We still need to use the mirror neuron to be able to figure out what the people, the social intelligence, to figure out what people around us are feeling, as a way to allow us to become co-creative partner with God. Meaning then, when I feel and I know where the pain and the suffering is, I can be a witness to you. I can be a real witness. I can empathetically sit and hear your suffering when you're unburdening it to me. I can hear it with every part of my consciousness. And I can feel your pain. Not take it in, but I can feel the suffering. I can feel your brokenness. I can feel your efforts in trying to resolve your situation, and even your feeling of being overwhelmed. And I can hear it with no judgment, with no accusation, just simply hear it. And as I do this, there comes a point where the burden that is being spoken to me, as me listening, is half removed by me just listening, because most of the time people don't listen to people who are in burden. They tactically hear with the frontal lobe, and they try to respond by starting by trying to find a solution set, because a lot of time the person needs somebody to hear how painful the journey has been with them, for them. They just want somebody to hear how painful it was. And once you begin to hear with that kind of open heart and compassion and mercy, and then the next thing to do as a co-creative partner with God is not to take the burden and say, okay, let me remove your burden from you. God is not asking any of us to do this. All I need to do, all we all need to do, is as the burden is being presented, the difficulty, the problem. For example, right now in Myanmar, there are over, as of today, there were over 1,600 people that were dead. They're still trying to pull people out of the rebels. Okay? This is Myanmar alone. Their building code was different than that of Bangkok. Bangkok, the damage was less because they have earthquake codes. Myanmar is a poor country. It was not the same. They have more damage. So having said this, I cannot take the suffering and the grief of all of these people and put it on me. I will not be able to survive the pain. So what I do is that if I'm listening and feeling the pain and the suffering of all of them, I can take it to God. I can pray, and I can ask God for mercy. I can ask God to relieve their grief and to give them protection, to protect the sick, the weak, the infirm, to heal those who are wounded. And to that effect, I sent you these night prayers to help you participate. We need to step up our game, and it's also a preparation for WESAC that's coming up, whose theme is pray for the world. We need to make this a practice for us on our daily routine. These prayers are short; they are not very long, and you can select. There are 9 of them. You can select to at any point, at any day, select one of them, and say it with your heart, with sincerity, for the world, because they are all connected to praying for the world. And disconnecting us, asking God to give us the discernment to have the clarity to not empath everything that we see or that we perceive, but to allow us to be of service. Because what the planet is in need now is service, because it's going to get worse. And the changes that we're seeing will appear to be regressive and frightening. But ultimately, it will serve God's purpose. But for the moment, and as it appears to us, it will appear frightening. It will be terrifying. It will feel like we're going backwards. Sometimes you have to go backward to leap forward even further. So we need to understand that and give ourselves the space and the room to have trust and faith that God's got the wheel. We have to trust that God's hand is in everything. Even in the changes that feels uncomfortable, we have to know that God is in it and God has a plan. And whatever that plan is, I'm going to trust you, Lord, that you are my shepherd and you will lead me to peaceful pastures. You will lead me to a place of safety, no matter what. So the prayers are beneficial for ourselves because we're asking God to teach us how to surrender, but we're also saying it for the world. So I'm asking you to do this on a regular basis to allow for you to have that kind of clear discernment and to understand that the neutrality we're seeking, and again, whatever it is that's a regressive change, whether it is personally in your own household, in your finances, in your employment, in your emotional state, in your identity, whatever it is, ultimately it's a teaching module that will lead you into a greater understanding of yourself. God is in everything that I do. There is nothing that's happening around the world that God is not in it. Trust me on that. No matter what it seems like that some dark principalities is influencing people and doing all, those dark principalities are being used as a way to teach us a greater lesson about compassion, about errors that could be made so that we can be awakened into a deeper understanding of what it is to exist in higher virtues, to be righteous by God, to be more a witness to the power of the divine, and to have a heart to listen to others in a different way. And the challenge with all of this is as follows. You're being asked to be empathetic, to use your social intelligence to hear, feel what's happening around you. Yet at the same time, you are being asked to be non-attached to what you're sensing and feeling from them. And it may seem like it's a paradox, but it's not a paradox. One type of it's the difference between enmeshment and codependent love, as opposed to agape, which is divine and cosmic love. That's the key. One is about I have to figure out, I have to take action, I have to figure out a way to change you, to tell you what you should be doing because you're doing it wrong. I have to figure out a way to fix this. This is A-type personality. I have to do something to fix. And a lot of time, what I do for my client is I just listen with my heart completely open, and not having the desire or nor the need to do anything. And as I'm open, and my heart is so open like this without me trying to edit, because I remember, because when the person is talking to you, instead of you being open to their feelings and sensing their feelings fully, you're busy thinking in your head at the same time. I know somebody that was facing that situation. They should be doing X, Y, Z. They should be, you're trying to respond. You're not listening. If you're really listening, you're a blank slate. If you're really a witness, you're such a blank slate that whatever, and at that moment, it's not even you listening. Because whatever burden they drop, it's God in you that's listening to them. And because it's God listening, the size of their burden will not impact you or remain attached to you. They will not hurt you. Because God in you, God, the higher aspect of you, that's God, this is now present and is listening to them. God can only be manifest through us, to the people in our circle of influence. It is through us that God shows up for them. Because most people on the planet do not have that access. And so when that shows up, it is important for us to be of service by, again, becoming non-attached and going into, it's the God within me that's listening to you. And therefore, it's an agape love. It's an unconditional love of God. It's a merciful God. It's a presence that has no judgment, that has no matter what sin, what fault, what brokenness occur, there is no judgment. That part of me is so open and so wide. I am allowing divine love instead of enmeshment and attachment to show up, where I feel I have to fix you by telling you to do X, Y, Z. And when you are so open and so wide like this, the person through their mirror neuron will know that they have received absolution from God. You don't have to say, I give you absolution. You don't have to say nothing. They will feel immediately better. And if they do ask you for advice, what do you think I should do? The God within you will know how to speak with them through you. It will know what to respond and how to respond and what to say. It will know what to do. Not from attachments, not from enmeshment, not from I'm going to take the problem for you. I'm going to pray for you, and when you say pray for you, you're seeing in your head that you're going to take the burden. That's not what you're asking. God is asking nothing like this. It's asking us to allow to be an open channel and to allow the God presence in you to hear the burden of the world. And if that happens, God will listen and God will find the solution set for them. Now, in the instance of a natural disaster, I cannot talk to everybody in Myanmar and listen to all of them, or everybody in Bangkok. But we can pray for them. In which instance, I connect energetically as I pray and say this prayer, I connect energetically to all the people in that location. And I ask God for mercy, for liberation, and for healing. I ask God for forgiveness. I close my eyes. I think I'm in my torsion field. I think of the location where Myanmar is located for me. I'm seeing it here, and wherever that is, I then ask the Guardian Alliance for Light to create a torsion field around that location and let the liberation, the love, the peace, the serenity, give these people, remove some of the burden so that the landing of the karma will be softer. That's what we need to do. Because planetary karma is being accelerated. So the landing of the karma will be softer rather than a harsh landing. So as I am being presented with all these opportunities, because everything is an opportunity. I received a text from one of my students whose son was in Bangkok, almost like it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. And I woke up from my sleep, the phone was next to me, and I looked at it. It was like, pray for my son who's in Bangkok. There's been an earthquake of 7.4. And immediately, I started asking God for mercy. I opened myself up, and I'm like, because I'm already awake now, right? So I began to pray. And then as I was doing the prayer, I fell asleep. And in the morning, when I woke up again, a few hours later, by 5 o'clock in the morning, I then respond back to her. I thought, prayer is on the way. I'm sorry to hear that this is happening, but prayer is on the way. Now, she's in a different time zone. She was already up by that point, and she knows we're there as a support, and she texts me. But in no way am I taking the pain and the suffering of any of these people and put it as a burden on me, and that I am actless and I can carry the load of the whole planet on my shoulders. No. God is not asking this for you. If you're doing this, you're doing it wrong. It's wrong. Intercession means you're asking God to come in, and you're just simply bringing the burden of the person to God on their behalf because they don't have access. That's all you're doing. So that the karma that you're again, everything is being accelerated. As I said, we're going to hear more earthquake, more volcanoes. We're going to hear more of these things, and it's going to be more and more accelerated. And this is until mid-2026. We have to be in our heart and intercede the right way. Now, having said this, when it's I have to be honest, I have to be very sincere with you. When it's a member of my family that is being burdened, it's also complicated for me because I have enmeshment and attachment and codependency with them. When my mother was sick with Alzheimer's and I used to do healing on her all the time, it got to a point I couldn't do healing for her anymore because I would get so sick when I'm done with doing the healing for her. She's my mom. I want to save her. And as I put my hand on her and begin to do an hour session on her, when I'm done, I have to cancel all my appointments for the next 4 or 5 days because I'm sick. I literally cannot get out of bed. Every problem that she has, I absorb it. And I have to do a lot of work, a lot of Ho'oponopono to remove these things from me. And she's my mother. She doesn't want to feel bad. I'm her son. She gives me everything. So it ended up being that toward the end, what I did is that I would do remote for her for no more than 10, 15 minutes. I couldn't do any more. Because the moment I started doing more, I went back into this whole martyrdom Christian concept where I'm going to take my mother's burden onto me. So I know what I'm talking about when it's your relative. If your mom and you have children that are sick, or family members, and I know what it is like. And for me, I couldn't do hands-on on her. She was upset at a certain point when she kept on asking me, why don't you? And I'm like, I can't do it. When I get home, not today, mommy, I'm going to do it. When I get home, I'll do a remote for you. Because if I put my hand on her, it's like everything becomes mine. All the pain in her body, within a matter of an hour and a half to 2 hours, I am out. It's all mine. And again, it took a lot of self-control because she would look at me pitifully, hurt that you're doing this for everybody else, why can't you do it for me? It's because of this. I can't function. If it's a stranger, anybody that's asking me to pray for them or heal them, I will not take it because I have detachment. I have boundaries. And this is why I asked you to do the personal power program, is to have that kind of understanding where you're monitoring your subconscious mind, and your subconscious mind is your servant, and you're not allowing a martyrdom complex that exists in your archetype that exists in your subconscious mind to take over and to absorb everything. This is the doorway through which that stuff is coming in. It's the martyr archetype. And I had to, and this is, I'm done with the personal power program, but I'm not done. I'm done today, but I'm not done. I'm going to continue on doing it because it doesn't take too much time for me to do. I'm going to continue on doing it because I want to remain in charge 100% in my power. And I have to be very discerning when I am letting myself, because the influence of feelings are so fluidic, and it's so easy for other emotion to overlap, and the next thing you know, you're enmeshed and you're inside something that you shouldn't be involved in, and your boundaries have been breached, and you're absorbing someone else's karma, and the pain and the suffering that you're having is not yours. Any questions, any comments?
I'm just wondering if people in crisis, as in Myanmar and Thailand, are experiencing the accelerated karma of that group body, perhaps in that country, or if, as you have said, they are experiencing a preparation of going through difficulties to learn to manage that difficulty for the eventual 3 days of darkness that comes during the alignment with the galactic center. In other words, does every troubled time mean it's karmic related?
At this moment, I have a feeling that all of the trouble that we're experiencing right now, none of it is accident. If you're being splashed by it, and it's not okay, it's not like it's written on a book. We are making all the choices to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. I'm going to give you a simple example. So yesterday I was on the waterfront. It was extremely warm. It was near 80 degrees. It was fabulous. On the way back at 14th Street, I usually walk in front of the Tesla dealership. There's one right off the water, right off the highway, the West Side Highway. And there was a giant protest. I have decided since last week, it started small at first. Since they broke the protesters, there's a police barricade now, the protester broke the glass door. I decided I'm not walking when they're having that protest on Saturdays. I go to 14th Street and I go around. So I'm with a friend of mine and she's like, I'm curious. I just want to see. And I'm like, I'm not walking that direction. I'm going the other way. Just in case something happened and there is a shooting or somebody come with a car and try to drive into the crowd, I don't want to get involved. And I said to her, if something is happening, I will see it in the news. I'm walking away. Again, discernment and choices. There's so many things that are happening out there right now when you're seeing people that are in the street that are getting attacked, they're at festival, all kinds of things are happening to them. It's because they like shiny things. Anything that they see that's shiny, that's bright, they want to run toward to see. I don't need to see it. I have too much insight into what's going to happen with the world. And I'm making a choice to remove myself from the situation. And so, by choice, people, and a lot of times the choice is that it's just they go along and they lean toward what the instinct is telling them. She's a very curious person. She's very nosy, as by her own admission, and she wants to see what the people are saying. And she's a little bit of a militant too. She was a part of the union and all that. She's a little bit of a militant too. So she loves that stuff and she's leaning toward it. I'm like, no, I don't need to see it. And the next thing you know, there was another protest at Union Square and there is a whole contingent of people that are coming with police barricades, with drumming and all that. I'm like, I'm crossing the street. I'm going 9th Avenue. I'm going further out away from that stuff. I don't need to be there. It's not part of my karma to be involved in that kind of mass protest. I have a different role to play in the drama that's being played at this moment. So the people in Myanmar and all these places, they play a certain role whether they realize it or not. And for somebody like me that's awake, I'm making a choice to remove myself from the situation. So to say that they are conscious, they have become conscious because of the experience, I don't know. Some of them may have, others probably not. The vast majority probably not. And they're going to go to multiple other experiences until they learn it. It's like knocking your head in the wall before you realize, ouch, this hurt, I have a concussion. I cannot make a blanket statement and say all of them got it. It's an individual thing, and each one of us, one by one, are going to make the decision. That's not my bus. I have to turn back like I did with my friend. I love her, and I'm like, you go ahead if you want to walk and take a look at this. I'm walking in a different direction. I'm not doing it. And anytime I see these protests in New York, there's always a stabbing or some crazy stuff that happened. I want my peace. I'm walking away from it, and I'm going to go back in my safe apartment, and I'm gonna cook my lunch. I don't need to experience the drama.
I understand that, and I just was thinking about the country of Myanmar, for instance, if that's a karmic um, creation, let us say, much as if in New York City there was Superstorm Sandy or some other great storm, and you didn't have a choice really about staying or getting out of the way. But then you've said there are no safe places anyway. There's only safe people. So I guess I'm still a little bit troubling or puzzling is the word about karma versus so many other options that could explain it.
Okay, so here was the thing. With Hurricane Sandy, when we did the connection, we knew it was going to happen because all of us are flooded. So I have to say to you personally, I prefer to be in a location where there is hurricanes because I grew up in the Caribbean. Moreover, you know when the hurricane is coming and you can take shelter and you can move out of the way. Like in the Keys in Florida, when a hurricane is coming, they're asking everybody mandatory evacuation. When a Category 5 hurricane is coming. If a Category 5 hurricane is coming in New York City, I'm getting out. I'm going to go somewhere else. So earthquake is a different thing. You don't know when it's coming. It just happened. Your building starts shaking and rattling, and the next thing you know, God forbid, your building collapses. So that's more karmic in itself, but in a sense that you don't control it. But a lot of time also, let's say a slow-moving storm of a hurricane that's coming toward you, if by choice they tell you to evacuate and you decide not to evacuate, that's karma. Does that make any sense, Janice?
Yeah, I think I understand. And at the same time, other factors could be playing into that. Uh, uh, the whole transition into this and training, so to speak.
Yes, and a lot of time maybe you want to experience the craziness of going through a hurricane where your building is shaking and all that and survive it, and to realize, well, I better listen to what the authorities are telling me next time because you know I thought I knew better, okay, and my stubbornness and all. I can't tell you the number of time, and particularly with my car and parking on my street, where spirit tell me move your car. Although I was parked legally, the next day when I show up, my car is towed.
Hmm.
It was so clear. I remember that one day they were filming a movie. There was a sign the next morning they were going to film a movie. And the section that I parked on the street, there was no sign there. And there was a section across the street. I'm on the right side. On the left side, there was another section that said that was also, there was no parking. I parked the car. I got out. There was no car on that side too. Spirit said to me, move the car on the other side. I walked away. Spirit said, go back, move the car. I look at the sign, I look at everything. I said, I'm leaving the car there. It's already parked. I'm not going to bother and move it. I started walking. I came back to my apartment. Spirit said, go outside and move the car. I did not move it. The next morning when I showed up, my car was towed. They extended the signage all the way down. And the opposite side where Spirit had told me to move, all the cars were parked there. There was no sign, no change in the signage. I regretted it. Because if I had listened, that would have never happened. The number of times I've gotten tickets and towed multiple times because of this.
Well, there's a lesson in that too, isn't there?
Yes, yes. And for me, the lesson is that parking is so rare in my neighborhood in Manhattan that when you find a parking spot, you refuse to move. You don't want to take the risk to move one block or one parking spot over and have somebody steal it.
I was just gonna say, how do you find a place in where you live?
It's impossible.
It's impossible.
This is why my car is not parked behind Marjorie's house.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Because it was a full-time job. Every evening, I'm between 6 and 8. I couldn't do any classes. I would go around and start circling the blocks for an
Yeah.
hour and 2 hours trying to find that one spot.
Yeah, exactly. Crazy.
So what I'm saying, Janice, is for us to understand that when God is talking to us, there are situations that I got myself into trouble with. And the situation that were the most dire, Spirit told me every time, don't do it. And I don't listen. And as the acceleration and we're going closer and closer to the galactic equator crossing, we need to listen. And that's the lesson. That's the teaching module. Listen to what God is telling you. That day was so clear because I was supposed to go upstate with a friend of mine. She showed up at the time we were supposed to leave, which was like 7:30, and it took me another 2.5 hours to get my car. And all of that drama could have been avoided if I had moved the car, because the spot was there. If I had moved it on the other side. So the people who are in natural disasters or in climate change events or social political situation that seem to be hurt by them, many of them have a sense of what's going to happen probably before it happens. Okay? And I know, before 9/11, I had a dream of the towers collapsing. I didn't know when it was going to happen, but I saw the whole thing. And if you're remaining, as the old people used to say, prayed up, you will know. And God will protect you. But do not walk in the mouth of danger neither, like I saw my friend was doing by walking toward the protest. Because that protest had about 300 people, and then another 1,000 or so were coming down. And she was walking right toward them. And she said, "Oh, I got scared. I saw it today. I got scared." I'm like, "Why did you go?" It's her karma. It's not my karma. She's not on my bus. She's a lovely person. I love her very much, but she's not on my bus. Her karma, because of her curiosity, is she likes shiny things and she needs to insert herself in everything. Everybody that she sees on the street. What do you want to do? What do you want to go? She's inserting her. If this is who you are, that's your karma. That's not who I am.
Thank you.
You see what I'm saying? And so if this is where your frequency and your vibration is at the moment, and there's nothing I can do to shake her and change her. I have said this to her multiple times already. I'm not having that conversation again. Another example, just to give an example on the kind of personality that she has. She's very kind and very loving. She sits on the street and she sees a bunch of people putting a sign on the electrical post with tape around it about buying free cannabis and no charges, delivery, blah blah blah, and all this. And she and somebody else say, "This is a scam. They're putting it in your school. These people are scamming people, blah blah blah." And she decided she's going to remove the sign. And then she goes and climb up. She's a short woman, climbs up and tries to pull the sign down. And as she's pulling the paper and the sign down, the sign gave up and she fell and hit her entire side in her hip. And she's black and blue and bruised all over. And she said, "Yeah, I remembered you because when I fell, I'm like, my God, that's my karma. I shouldn't have done this." Why are you inserting yourself in everything? It is not your responsibility to police and tell everybody what they should be doing.
And if you feel that's your responsibility, whatever consequences comes with that, enjoy, happy landing. But if I saw something like this, it's not like somebody's attacking somebody in the street and I'm, I'm of course in a condition like this, I would try to intercede and do something, but who am I? I'm not the police. It could be that you think these people are scammers. It could be a legitimate business and that's their way of advertising their business. You don't know this. So we need to understand that sometimes people are in a location because they have karma with that location. And they need to be posted there and their soul made an agreement to experience certain things. And whatever that certain thing is, it needs to happen, transpire for them to learn a lesson. And sometimes it's not just one time, it's multiple waves of the same thing has to happen over and over again before they finally get it. Any other questions or comments? I want to read one of the prayers from the collection that I sent you. To give you a sense of the kind of intercession we have to do for the planet and for the world. As I sense the fears and panic of the world, Lord, grant me the detachment not to empath the fear, the strength and the resiliency to be a good shepherd, the patience to help humanity navigate the storms. Speak through me and help them find peace, serenity, and reconciliation. Help me show them neutrality as a way to respond to injustices without zealotry or emotional blindness. For responding to fear with fears create an equally toxic dynamic. Replacing fear with wisdom and love repairs and heals the illusion of separation that divides us. Lord, I am not certain that I can accomplish this task, for I am just a man. But in you, Lord, I completely surrender myself and my mission. Guide my path, Lord, and fortify me, that I may do your work and help heal humanity. So the thing for us to highlight here is the sentence that says, speak through me and help them find peace. If you are open to be a witness, if you are understanding that your empathy is a good thing, I'm not asking you to shut down and become stoic and not feel anything, to numb yourself. I'm asking you to be actually more empathetic and more feeling and listen more. But as you listen more, you need to listen with the right lens and the right filter. You're not absorbing the fear and the pain. You're trying to allow God, not just you, but God to listen through you and let God speak and help them find the peace, the serenity, and the reconciliation that they need. You're becoming a direct agent of God by being simply a witness to whatever burden, whatever difficulty, whatever situation that they may be facing at the moment. And by you allowing God to listen through you, all of a sudden you open up so much that they can feel the presence of God in you. And you become the way for them to find love and find mercy, and more importantly, to find forgiveness. And therefore, they receive absolution through God in you. Help me show them neutrality as a way to respond to injustices without zealotry and emotional blindness. And again, zealotry and emotional blindness has caused all kinds of things in the world. And we know, as the predictions have said, we are about to see some rather difficult time. And by the way, Neptune is in retrograde just into Aries, and that retrograde, the last time it happened, the last time this kind of retrograde happened, was during the Civil War in the United States. There are some things that are going to happen for the next 9 months that are going to be unprecedented, or at least has not happened in a very, very long time. Mind your business, stay out of trouble, and stay in prayer. For responding, next part of the prayer, for responding to fear with fear creates an equally toxic dynamic. Replacing fear with wisdom and love repair and heal the illusion of separation that divides us. Absolutely true. The fact that I understand and I see that even the people who are making the regressive moves to change things backwards, to do all of this, they are being used by God to teach a higher lesson. I understand the role they are playing, and I have mercy for them, even for them. Because they may appear as the biggest bullies, but they're actually being used to teach the rest of humanity, and particularly to accelerate the karma. And therefore, I have no ill specifically toward them. I understand the agitation and the turbulence they are creating, but I have no ill toward them. And therefore, I am not participating in a separation, a bifurcation, the us versus them. And I love the last two sentences because of the prayer, because it's saying basically, as a human being, it's a tall order. I don't know if I can do this. Lord, I am not certain that I can accomplish this task, for I'm just a man. But in you, Lord, I completely surrender myself and my mission. The same way Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane said to God, take this cup away from me. I know this is going to happen, but I don't know if I have the strength to do this. If you can, God, take this cup away from me. Guide my path, Lord, and fortify me, that I may do your work and help heal humanity. Any questions, any comments? You should have all received an email with copies of all these prayers that I'm including this one, okay? That will be number 2 on the list, the second prayer.
Okay, I'm going to switch gears slightly, and I want to talk about something that I became aware of very recently by Lord Melchizedek, as he's trying to advance the teaching of the Melchizedek order of neutrality. He brought to attention, to my attention at least, the fact that in 2008 at the WESAC in Hancock, New York, I had presented to all of you the DNA reconstruction, rebuilding of 12 strands of DNA. And that channeling, the pieces of it came to me between the end of 2007, the fall of 2007, and the spring of 2008. And it came while I was upstate. The first piece was walking in the woods. I began to hear this collective telling me what they wanted me to do and what they wanted me to write. And I remember very clearly that I went back into the house because I was deep into the wood. I said, "You're going too fast. I'm not going to remember this. Hold on. Let me get back to the house." And I went back inside and I wrote it. And the first piece that I wrote, it was so extraordinary. It was so extraordinary that I couldn't fathom. I'm not, this is not possible. Because what they were telling me is that they were gonna give us a way to regrow all 12 strands of DNA. And I thought to myself, okay, I'm smart enough and I'm a little bit of a geek. So I know the way DNA works. Positive mutation only occurs, let's say, for example, you're a species of animal. And for whatever reason, the food that you eat, the specific food that you eat, there's a scarcity of it, and all of members of your species are dying. And then what happened is that as the last members of your species are dying, the parents and the mother give birth, and the birth and the offspring that comes through now develop the capacity to digest a different type of food. They positively mutate into something else. And it's always when there is a major danger of a species dying that positive mutation happen. And what they were saying was completely different, that these collectives were going to come in and install all these gifts, and they were going to create this positive mutation experience. And we're going to be able to regrow all 12 strands of DNA in us. And I couldn't accept it. And then I shut down, and the connection I got disconnected. And I kept on rereading it. The word kept going back into my mind. I went back to the city, and a week and a half later, maybe more, 2 weeks later, I am going from the supermarket. I have 2 bags of groceries in my hand. And I must have gotten to a point where I begin to accept that it's possible, because I'm crossing the street to get 1 block away from my house. And I begin to hear the second piece of the DNA reconstruction come in. A second collective comes in to gift us with, and I begin to hear it so clearly in my head. And I rushed home. I said, okay, stop. Let me get home to write this thing down. And again, they said something even more fantastic. I shut down. So in 12 separate connections, I received almost like 12 beads to make a necklace that became the DNA reconstruction. 12 collectives, 12 gifts. So and the reason I'm bringing this up is that when we started doing the DNA reconstruction work, it was me, Kathy, and what's her name? The branch leader from Maryland, I forgot her name now. Holly, I forgot her first name. It was 3 of us that started doing this. And we were doing it daily, listening to the recording daily. And after a year of listening to it daily, there were all kinds of shifts and all kinds of things that were happening. I began to realize that we had to do it in a very different way. And we were meeting every week to talk about the experiences, because no one had ever done this before on the planet. So we were doing a support group to connect to this. Then I was guided by Lord Melchizedek again to do it very differently. So for a month, I would do only the first collective, the first gift, the first bead. Every day, I would do only the first bead, but I would do it slowly. By that point, not with the recording, because I'd listened to the recording for a year. I knew every words, every part of it. So I would sit in silence every morning and I would let the first collective run through me and install the gift, but it would be done slowly. And there were all kinds of impactful changes that occur. Then the second month, first collective, then I would add to it the second collective. And I would do this for the second month. Third month, first, second, and third. Fourth month, first, second, third, and fourth, and so on and so forth until I completed all 12 for an entire year. What I can say to you is this. During that time, as I was doing this, all kinds of things began to happen to me. And the one thing that was very clear is that the color of my eyes started changing. For minutes at a time, and sometimes for 5 minutes, and then change back to being brown again. I remember the first time it happened, I was at a WISAC in Moonseed in Austria. And I was sitting across from this young lady from Manchester. We were eating after the WISAC was done. And then she said, wait a minute, what's happening? What's happening? Your eyes, your eye color, they're changing. They are different shades of blue. And she was fascinated by it. I didn't know it was happening. She just saw it. And it was just changing. Subsequent to that, when I got back to New York, I had multiple experiences with different colors was showing up. Green, a magenta, kind of purple color. Even a white color where the iris became all white. All kinds of things were happening. And the reason I'm saying this is because Lord Melchizedek pointed out to me very recently as a week ago, that if you go back to the fourth collective from the DNA reconstruction, it was actually the Melchizedek cloister. Because one of the teachings of the Melchizedek teachings is about also teaching not only about our own Melchizedek for this universe, but also the Melchizedek cloister itself. That apparently we exist in a multi-universal system, and that although scientists is saying our universe is 14 billion years old, that we came from a parent universe. And scientists are even saying that that parent universe is actually a black. We get ejected from a black hole from a parent universe. And the reason for this, what is a black hole to begin with? To try to explain this. A black hole is an object of immense mass. And the mass is so heavy that nothing can escape it. To explain it in a simple way, if you have a trampoline that represents space-time, but in this instance, it's just a simple example, you put on the trampoline a marble, a lightweight thing, it will create a slight indentation, as opposed to a bowling ball that's heavy, and it creates a curvature. And if you put another ball around it, the gravity of the mass of the big object will pull everything toward it. And if you were to put an anvil, the anvil will bend it so much that everything will, within a certain circumference, will move into it. Now you have to understand, in real space-time, in our universe, these black holes and these objects of immense mass are not just bending a flat sheet.
You can think of the black hole as being in a completely 3D medium, almost like an object in water. It's all around us. And when something that massive the mass is that strong, it will bend everything in the entire medium around them. Now there's a ring around the black hole called the event horizon, in which once an object crosses that event horizon, you can no longer escape the gravity, the pull to take you to the center of the black hole. To explain how a black hole would be formed, let's say on Earth, Earth would have to collapse and become the size of a blueberry. And that will create a tiny black hole. That would eventually grow by absorbing everything around it, but that's the way it would start. So typically speaking, black holes are created by sun that implode, that collapse on themselves, big gigantic sun that collapse, and when they collapse, the entire mass get so dense in the interior and recombine that it creates something so heavy that it pulls everything in, including light. But if the black hole is in the fabric of space and it's collapsing everything in, so the black hole is here, it's like a funnel, it's capturing everything into the center, but on the other side of the black hole is what they call a white hole. All of the things and particles and everything that it's pulling in eventually emerges on the other side and get ejected out. And when they get ejected, by the way, at the center of every galaxy is a black hole, including our own in the Milky Way. And it's not the only black hole that exists in a galaxy, or for that matter, in this universe. There are lots of them. Anyway, as it ejects on the other side, the scientists are now theorizing that they think the way the universe is shaped, it's like if you think of a chalice, a glass chalice, and there's a stem and there's a bottom to it, our universe ejected from the bottom and it's expanding out, right? And that ejection that happened 14 billion years ago is the Big Bang. It was an ejection from a black hole. And that black hole came from the previous universe. And the reason for this is that the Webb telescope is now capturing pictures of galaxies that existed beyond the black hole, that are older than 14 billion years old, that should not exist. Because there's certain kind of light configuration when you take the pictures, they can measure the time. And these are so old that they are realizing that it predate 14 million years. And therefore they pre-existed what we think is the black hole. Now I have sent you in the email that you all have received from me, also a small video, I think it's 14 minutes, from Sadhguru, that's talking to a cosmologist about multiple universes. Because I want you to get another perspective of the same thing, because Melchizedek was trying to explain it, and it so happened as the universe would have it, I happened by chance, not by chance, to see on my YouTube feed this interview. And Melchizedek pointed out to me that the fourth collective was 12 Melchizedek, who claimed that they were going to give us the utterance and word of power that created their very specific universes at the root or bottom section of each one of our DNA. And that came in 2008. And at the time when I was doing the DNA reconstruction, I thought I knew what it was. I felt energetically the utterance of power, the words, and everything else from the multiple, from the various universes, our universe and the other 11. But I didn't, what's the word? I didn't really understand what was really happening. let me read you that section from the DNA reconstruction of the fourth collective. As you step down the multi-universal level, 12 representatives of Logos of the order of Melchizedek surround you and offer to teach you the words and utterance of creation that manifested their individual universes. If you are ready to accept this gift at this time, answer affirmatively and let them whisper the words and the utterance of power that created your DNA at the root and bottom section of the first DNA. And the second member of this team begin to whisper the utterance and word of power for the second DNA strand. And the members of this team, the third Melchizedek, begin to whisper at the root and bottom section of your third DNA the word and the utterance of power to regrow it completely. Let the fourth Melchizedek begin to whisper the utterance and the word of power at the root and bottom section of your fourth DNA. Let the fifth Melchizedek begin to utter the word and the utterance of power around the fifth DNA strand. Let the sixth Melchizedek begin to create and generate his word and utterance of power to create your sixth DNA strand. Let the seventh Melchizedek utter his seventh word of power around the seventh DNA. And let the eighth Melchizedek utter his word of power and creation around your eighth DNA. Let the ninth Melchizedek utter his word of power at the bottom section of the ninth DNA. Let the 10th Melchizedek create and utter around your 10th DNA his word and utterance of power. Let the 11th Melchizedek utter around your 11th DNA his utterance of power. And let the 12th Melchizedek create and utter around the 12th DNA strain his word of power. And then we move on to now the next collective, which is at the galactic level. So what I can say about this is that I was not consciously aware of the connection of that passage with the clusters of Melchizedek and the multiverse. It is something that I'm now becoming very aware of, that Lord Melchizedek is trying to present to us something very deep and very profound. And when you listen to what Sadhguru will have to say, you will understand more, because he's saying that in total, there have been 84, according to him, 84 universes that have been manifested physically. And the last 21 are the ones that have left footprint. And their footprint exists in us. The same way that in this DNA reconstruction, the utterance and word of power that created each universes, they are not the same, because our universe was created with a theme of courage. That the theme for other universes are different. In fact, one scientist is postulating, for example, that the universe that the universe that we emanated from, for example, time in our universe moves forward. They are claiming that in our parent universe, time is moving backward. So the utterance and the laws of physics and everything else will change from universe to universe. And I didn't realize to the degree to which that was true. And I mean, I knew that there were other Melchizedek. I remember Lord Melchizedek, Dr. Stone, I don't remember exactly where, channel that there was another universe with a Melchizedek named Kala Melchizedek. There are other Melchizedek that, and in fact, Master Adonis, who is one of the galactic masters in the galactic hall, who also runs a logos school on Venus, is not from this universe. He is from the previous universe, and he was ascending and going back, and our Melchizedek asked him to become the teacher for the Logos School in our universe, and he decided to remain behind to help us. So we are not just multidimensional, as we are now moving through this ascension of moving to the various dimension with the torsion field, but through our DNA and through our connection, the footprint left behind by the previous version of our universe, we are also multi-universal. This is a very tall order. But this is the teaching and the remembrance that Lord Melchizedek is trying to guide us into. Any questions, any comments?
Are all the Melchizedek's lords?
Yes. Because they actually created the universes by uttering the words. In the Bible, John chapter 1, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was God. It was through the Word that the universe was created.
But the creatrix is created everything. There's source, and then there's the female principle from which everything was created, right? So she's female.
Yes. The best way to describe this is to say that there was an emptiness, and it's from this emptiness that everything came from. And the Melchizedek, or the lens through which physical manifestation happened. In the video from Saraguru, he also says, by the time we reach 112 universes in the future, after that, all universes that are going to be created will no longer be physical. They will have no physical impact. They will be only on the spiritual plane. What we call, the way Tibetan Buddhism described it, they call it the indivisible emptiness and luminosity. What you call the creatrix and the light cannot be separated. Do you understand what I mean?
When I remember when we talk about creation,
Yes.
we said there was source and emptiness, where there uncreated, basically.
Yes.
And then the giving and the receiving story, and then the female principle could not receive any longer and exploded due to shame.
Yes.
And everything was created out of her.
Yes.
So, and then, however, the Melchizedeks then are just manifestations of the created, of creation. They're just part of what she created, basically.
Don't separate them. Let me explain. So the idea and the concept of the desire to give and the desire to receive as being interconnected, the giver and the receiver, the light, the luminosity, and the emptiness being one and inseparable. What we call the explosion that created the universe is actually the Big Bang. And that explosion only occurred because Melchizedek uttered the word. So Melchizedek is an aspect of the giver. Do you understand what I'm saying?
So it was not initiated by the female principle, the container.
No, what actually happened is that the receiver had so much shame and contracted and said to the giver, come back and restore everything. And the giver realized, I could give the receiver everything that she wants or it wants, because there was no gender at the time, what that it wants. But I cannot remove the shame. And in order for me to remove the shame, something else has to be done. And when it went back to the receiver that was contracted in a small point, it touched it, and there was a gigantic spiritual detonation, and the Big Bang occurred. But what Melchizedek and Sadhguru are trying to say is that there was not just one Big Bang, there were multiple. Creation is endless. There was multiple.
So the story of giving and receiving happened multiple times?
Yes.
Oh. Why? I'm confused now.
Because you're being too linear. You're being too linear. You're not understanding in the scope of okay. So if there was a first point in which, for example,
Prime creator source out of which everything comes, right? That is the uncreated still.
yes.
Yes. And then there's creation, which is where everything, the container, the receiver from which everything else is created, correct?
Yes. So the Big Bang that we talked about, let's just say it was the first universe. And the first universe happened. And that universe evolved. Eventually, all the pieces of the receiver learn how to give and receive from each other. And that universe got ascended. When it ascended, it went into a black hole. And that black hole became then again a white hole to manifest a second universe. Because God is infinite and perpetually expanding. But this time, this universe will have a different theme. Maybe the theme for this one is going to be courage. The next one is going to be mercy. The other one is going to be hope. The next one is going to be, and every time the pieces of the receiver will learn different things. Because everything in source exists as a potential for manifestation. Nothing is physically learned. Because everything in source is a potential, because it's a space of negative existence. And the only way for it to be learned is for manifestation to occur. So when one theme is complete, exhalation and inhalation, God take another breath again. Does that make any sense?
So the ascension and descension happens continuously in different multi-universes.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yes.
And we are multi-dimensional beings who have been in all these different universes.
Yes, aspect of them, the footprint of them exists in us, in our own DNA. We're wired to it.
And we are also incarnated or have been at different times in these different universes.
Yes, yeah, there's aspect of us that the footprint is there. The West Guru was saying is he said, I love the way he explained it because he had a very specific way of talking. He said, I'm not a scientist person, I'm not a math person, but he said, when I go in the jungle and I walk around, I can see footprint of animal, and I can tell that animal, depending on the footprint, because I know how to track, is hungry. I can determine the intelligence of someone by watching their footprint. He said, we are the footprint of these other universes. They exist in us.
Fascinating.
This is like deep frying of the noodles.
Yeah. And I'm still stuck on, because I always, at least 10 years ago, we were talking about, because I think it came from Kabbalah, your knowledge, how everything comes from the female principle. So we don't talk about the female principle anymore. It's
the
just
female principle is the receiver. It is.
Okay. Yeah, it is. Okay, good. Thank you.
Yeah, it is the receiver.
Okay, thank you.
But if to say female as opposed to male, the way we understand gender in this physical universe is not the same. when you're that elevated.
Yeah, of course.
You
But
understand what I'm saying?
there's still the container,
But
the
it's
receiver.
yes, there
Yeah,
is a container. In Tibetan Buddhism, they call it the emptiness.
yeah.
Okay, and then there's the light in the emptiness, and they cannot be separated. You cannot divide them
Mm-hmm. Oh, I
because they
see.
belong together.
So basically creation, I mean, of course it happened from both source and
Yes,
the container were involved in it. So
yes,
then, yeah, it makes sense.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
I think that we should be a little bit more, lenient with ourselves. We're trying to remember cosmic events. I mean, this doesn't even fit into the scope of just a few hundred years ago. You're thinking that the Earth was flat.
Hmm.
I mean, and look how far your science has brought you from that point. To try to come to a point where you could understand the entire cosmology. You have to be a little bit more patient to allow yourself to open. Just think. I think of myself like a flower. I can't force myself to totally bloom immediately, but if I let myself unfold, it will do so in a way where nothing will be damaged, and the entire beauty and essence of what it is that I'm expressing I'll be able to contain that. But if I try to force myself open, I would destroy. So to try to remember, we're trying to remember like in a linear fashion, and there's so much that you need to unlearn in order to even open up to those kind of ideas. So I try to empty myself and just say, okay, I'm just gonna take that thought in. I'm just gonna let it marinate and see what else it touches and causes me to remember. This is about remembrance. And we're talking about like if it was the beginning and there's an end. It's not like that. So I don't know what to say except to say we are all witnessing each other as we open and grow and expand and move our borders of consciousness from where we are in this moment to that next possibility that a few minutes ago for you was impossible. Mm-hmm. But now it becomes a possibility because you are continually expanding and growing. And when you were talking, I thought about the motion picture with Doctor Strange and going into these various universes, just popping the alchemy and the different things that they showed in that. I mean, it was incredible. So try and look at something like that so you can try to remember when you said, I'm just a man. No, you're more than that. And that's what Creator is trying to remind us. And we're more than that. It's so much more than that. And then I'm going to stop. I said, because, Pierre, I do remember being upstate with you and you were opening up the house and we were cleaning and you went out into the yard and you were working out there in the yard and you had that little greenhouse on the side. And when you came in to the kitchen, I was in the kitchen washing dishes, I believe, or cleaning a window or something. And I looked at your eyes and your eyes had changed. And I said, Pierre, your eyes have changed. And you said, what? So we are witnessing each other's emancipation from one level to the next. Mm-hmm. I'll just say it that way because I don't know what else to say. Yep. And so if we try to, I got to put it in an order. You're going to be constantly stuck because you're not going to allow yourself to move from one thing to the other. If you say, okay, in the first grade I learned this, and I'm not going to let you change nothing that I learned in the first grade. No, the first grade, I'm just trying to lay a foundation for you to build on so you can have that to remember, to expand, to go. You don't start in college. You start in the elementary. And so this is a learning spiritually the same way. We're trying to remember the glow ray that we each had as part of that great I don't even know what to say. Cosmic experience. I kept looking at, I've been stuck on the Lord's Prayer, Our Father. And in, our language, Ruve Abba. Our Father. So he said, I'm you, you're me. And what you perceive in me is you. So be still within and let me remind you of the glory you have with me. Thank you.
Thank you, Selidia. And thank you for reminding me that experience about the eyes and witnessing that. The one additional thing that reminded me of all of this happened with this last week. I had lunch with a friend of mine I had not seen in a while. He works out of town quite often. And while I saw him, he had this beautiful pair of glasses on, very funky and looking. I'm like, I love your glasses, sunglasses. You're wearing contact underneath it? He said, no, I'm not wearing contact. I said, this is prescription? He said, no. I said, what happened? What do you mean? He said, oh, my eye self-corrected. Again, positive mutation in a physical body. I've never heard of anybody whose prescription self-corrected. That was a first for me. And it reminded me of what happened to my eyes during those times where that period of 5 years when I was doing the genetic reconstruction so intensely that my eyes were constantly changing colors.
Mm-hmm.
And the possibilities are endless if we lean into those muscles to try to remember, as you said, Selidia.
Yeah. I'm telling you, we are wonderfully and fearfully made. There's so much going on within our being at any particular time. That's why if you went to a remote place in any part of this earth that had never seen this 21st century person, and you were carrying some of the little gadgets and so forth that you have that ordinarily you don't think nothing of these things, you would be perceived as someone who's not from this planet, not from this, because you're not from the particular space and the experience of whoever it is that you have encountered. So just imagine, just image in, just say all is possibility. And so this is another possibility. This is another possibility. And the choice, you can't say, oh, I had no choice. Oh, you always have a choice. You have a choice to say yay or nay, go or stay, to act on something or not to act on something. You have a choice. So you choose to grow in your understanding and your consciousness, and you choose to move from this physical level to the ethereal level. You choose to do that. Mm-hmm. And so I just said, bless each and every one of us for daring to make that choice. But be patient with yourself. And it doesn't have to be as you thought it was. Just allow. Just allow. And yes, oh my goodness, I'm not going to say anything more because you're not trying to pick apart anything, but just allow for all these things to be. And you know how you could be walking down the same street 25 years and never notice something. But once you see it, you can't unsee it. And you say, well, God, I've been coming down this way for 25 years. I never saw that. But because now is the time for you to see it and to experience it and to make it a part of your reality. So you cannot now unsee it. And every time you drop another word, another possibility on our ears, once we hear it, you cannot ever be the same.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Sylvia. All right, let's take a 5-minute break and then we'll do a closing meditation. 5 minutes.
Okay.
Take a very deep and slow breath. And as you inhale and exhale deeply and slowly, allow the universal life force that permeates everything to enter into your lungs. Keep breathing deeply and slowly. And let your soul and your awareness drop in the middle of your chest. Please forgive me. I love you, and I let go. Please forgive me. I love you, and I let go. Let your mind and your heart sync with each other. And notice what you notice. Realize that you can perceive everything that's happening around you as if your eyes were in your heart space. Listen. Listen as if the more than 50 trillion cells in your body had ears. And notice what you noticed. What kinds of perceptions, insights, or breakthroughs that this heart and mind coherence is creating for you? Become a witness to yourself and without judgments or accusation. Lean into your vulnerability, your humanity, and your brokenness. Notice what you noticed. In my hour of need, Lord, I renew my faith in Thee. For I am surrounded by events and circumstances that inflame fears, help me remember that I am being tested. Show me how to surrender my fear and lack unto you. It is not my burden to solve anything. I simply need to let go. In this darkness, your light is my compass. For you are the solution set that will banish chaos, fear, and abuse out of this world. You are the repairer, redeemer, and giver of all things. Let a cascade of goodness and benevolence flow toward me and humanity. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive in gratitude. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive in gratitude. Thank you for the blessings. I accept the gifts and I receive with gratitude. Hosanna into the highest. Hosanna into the highest. Hosanna into the highest. Take a very deep and slow breath. And whenever you feel ready, you can open your eyes.
Thank you, Pierre.
You're welcome, Janice. I want to thank all of you for listening to me and for following us. If you're listening to us on Patreon, thank you for your support. On YouTube, like this video, subscribe to the channel. Blessings, everyone. Thank you all for listening. And thank you for allowing me to share with you these expensive and expanded and quite elevated knowledge from the Melchizedek order. Blessings, everyone. Good night. I'll talk to you next week.
Love y'all. Bye.
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 Good night.